Hi, I'm Carlita and I have ADHD and I have PTSD. And often, because I have ADHD, I get burnout quite a lot as well. So I'm going to go over some points today that I think will help many people who have ADHD, who have burnout, who have PTSD, and who have brain injury, because PTSD is pretty much the same as and can cause brain injury. And all of these actually are intermeshed and they are overlapping cognitive and emotional neurological traits, which makes it easy for them to be confused or coexist in one person. And the reason why they coexist in me is because I have all of them for different reasons. There's no confusion there. But in other people, there might be some confusing overlap, especially if they haven't been diagnosed with any of them. And so, especially in women who have been long misdiagnosed with anxiety and depression instead of actually having any of these symptoms. I've actually had a lot of clients come to me in hypnotherapy for clinical hypnotherapy, and they have told me about certain conditions they have that weren't even diagnosed for what they really should have been diagnosed for. I've had clients often explain certain attributes of PTSD to me, and I say, well, yes, that's PTSD and that's sleep apnea, and you have sleep apnea because you have PTSD. And then I help them with the hypnotherapy treatment for those things. But it has more often than not happened. So the key points that I want to go over are 7 commonalities. So the first one is executive dysfunction. So all 4 conditions can impact planning, organization, impulse control, decision making. Making decisions is extremely hard if you have PTSD, if you have ADHD, if you have brain injury, and if you have burnout. It's so difficult to make a decision. And even though if you are making it at the right time, you often don't have the confidence that you used to make a decision because you've lost that confidence due to the trauma and stress that you've been through. So that's number 1, executive dysfunction. Number 2 is memory issues. Very, very sad. People with ADHD don't remember their childhoods. They have large sections of their life missing. They don't remember the past. I've had it my whole life, and I wondered what on earth it was or why I had it before I was even diagnosed with ADHD, which was very recently, the last few years. And it's very hard to live with not being able to remember your past. And then if you have PTSD, again, it's another classic symptom of PTSD. And that's because your brain is actually blocking stuff out to protect you as well, because you don't want that memory, actually. But then you lose other parts of your memory too. The good news is with hypnotherapy and memory retrieval, you can actually bring certain lost memories back. You can retrieve those. You might think you can't and you're never going to get those memories back, but you can actually. The subconscious mind is incredible for that. So yeah, that is possible. And the same with brain injuries. There I don't think it's possible to retrieve all lost memories, but it is possible to retrieve some. So you have a lot of disrupted memory storage with brain injuries, and it's a little bit more severe, and it might be difficult to retrieve some of those memories back. But it's possible to retrieve some, depending on the situation or areas of where the brain is injured, and if there's any neurons that are spread out to other networks that have some anchorage to that memory storage, it might be possible to bring those back. But again, you need to speak to an expert, a neurologist expert for that, or try a hypnotherapist to retrieve other memories. Exactly the same can happen with burnout, but in a different way. You are overwhelmed and you have brain fog that mimics these effects. Some people have had really bad brain fog, and they have very bad short-term memory and long-term memory as well. But that, again, is recoverable. Number 3, emotional dysregulation. So intense emotions, mood swings, and difficulty managing frustration, anxiety, sadness, grief. Overwhelm of grief can actually also cause post-traumatic stress. And often post-traumatic stress and grief go hand in hand. You might be grieving the loss of a previous life because of change in your physical circumstances after a severe accident, or you might have lost a partner or a child or someone very close to you, and that's caused your PTSD as well. But those symptoms also cause serious critical emotional dysregulation in the same way that ADHD does, involving heightened fight or flight responses. And brain injuries can also alter mood control, and burnout leads to emotional exhaustion, making it difficult to control or regulate so many emotions. When you have burnout, it's exactly the same as having all these other symptoms. You just cannot regulate your emotions. You don't even have that energy. So these all are aspects of fatigue and mental exhaustion. So chronic fatigue is a hallmark of burnout, but it's also seen in ADHD due to mental overload and mental overwhelm. So that's another aspect. And PTSD also, PTSD sufferers also suffer from mental fatigue and mental exhaustion because they are hypervigilant. They're always running on the hypervigilance mode. And with brain injury due to neurological damage, this can also cause low motivation and difficulty initiating tasks. And then number 5, sensory sensitivities and overstimulation. Obviously, because you have ADHD, many people with ADHD experience sensory overwhelm. And this is also a problem with PTSD due to hyperarousal and overstimulus. Brain injuries can also make the brain more sensitive to light and noise and stimuli in the same way, exactly the same way as ADHD people are oversensitive to light and noise. And burnout does the same thing to people. It makes people be far more irritable and reactive. Sleep disruptions. Poor sleep quality, chronic insomnia, and irregular sleep patterns occur in all of these conditions, affecting focus, emotional resilience, and energy levels, making things worse than they already are, challenging for people with these chronic issues. And PTSD can cause nightmares and hypervigilance, also sleep apnea, where you wake up and you feel like you're drowning and you have to gasp for air because normally where your brain is just on automatic telling you to breathe, that mechanism stops, and that's why you're like this, and that can be very scary for somebody with PTSD, and it happens often. Also, ADHD people have chronic insomnia and a lot of difficulty trying to sleep because of circadian rhythms being disrupted all the time. Burnout leads to stress-related insomnia, and brain injuries also can cause sleep irregularities. So all of these are affected by sleep disruptions. And number 7, of course, the most obvious one is difficulty with focus and for some motivation. ADHD is defined by fluctuation attention. Now, I think everybody is critical of the attention deficit disorder because we know that we hyper focus on things, and it's not a problem giving anything attention, it's a problem being distracted from that thing that you're hyper focused on, either be it by noise or having other things on your mind. Burnout and then tiredness can cause problems keeping motivated, keeping consistent. That's the difficulty. So staying consistent and staying committed to that consistency, it's best to break a task up into 10, 15-minute bites and having breaks in between. The Pomodoro method, you could 25-minute work and then 5-minute break. That could help sometimes, but just break your tasks up into bite-sized steps so that you can have short bursts of focus and then a break to reward yourself afterwards. So ADHD is very much a problem for being distracted all the time or having problems focusing and staying consistent due to overwhelm. PTSD, brain injuries, and burnout make task very challenging for the same reasons with difficulty focuses and motivation. So PTSD sufferers struggle with intrusive thoughts a lot of the time, intrusive images, especially if the event that caused the trauma is not far off in the past and you're just recovering. Even normally it's something that you come up with the first day, the first moment you open your eyes, and before you go to sleep often. Brain injuries also can impair cognitive processing, and burnout can cause mental exhaustion, similar to the struggles that ADHD inattentiveness have. So since ADHD, burnout, brain injury, and PTSD share all of these overlapping struggles, here are some 3 tips to help manage with all 4. Number 1, to reduce cognitive overload. Why it helps? So executive dysfunction, mental fatigue, and overstimulation make it hard to process information and make decisions. So we can use checklists, routines, external reminders, planners, sticky notes, apps, to offload mental effort and break tasks into smaller steps. I have a friend who uses an egg timer, one of those actual egg timers you use in the kitchen, not on their phone, but one of those ones you wind up and put by your desk. I would like to use one of those, but I can't find one where I am right now. One of the things that I do is I have a lot of issues with trying to remember all these apps that I may have registered to or signed up to pay a monthly fee to use and so on. So what I often do is as soon as I register with a new app and I'm making a payment to use that app, I will just put a reminder in my calendar and I'll put it there to make an alarm for a week before the next payment is due or the day before also. And that really helps a lot keep up to date with all of those things, because often ADHD people forget to pay a bill or a registration fee for that month and so on. So that's one of the things that I've got into a good habit of doing, is to keep up with all the apps I'm subscribed to that I might have to pay for. And the same with any bills I have, I do the same. I use my calendar for that, reminders. And then make sure that you limit decision making by automating choices. Now, that's not an easy thing to do, but you can break tasks into smaller tasks in order to do that. I'm not really somebody who likes to plan too much. I can't do that, but other people might prefer it. So number 2, regulate your nervous system. Okay, why it helps? Well, obviously, because all of these symptoms are due to a dysregulated nervous system and emotional system and so on, due to overwhelm, stimulus, and everything else, from stress and emotional dysregulation. One of the things that is very useful is box breathing. Actually, box breathing is really not any different, in my opinion, to embryonic Qigong breathing. It's more of a simplified version of that. And Army Navy SEALs are taught to box breathe because it helps in a crisis situation to act and get blood continuously moving around the body. If you have an injury and you're bleeding, it can be life-saving for that. So box breathing is really simple. So you just inhale, hold 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, inhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, and so on, repeat. So that's why it's called box breathing, because it's like 4 seconds, inhale, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. So you're creating like this box image in your mind. And another really useful method is yoga. I also find Qigong and Tai Chi really helpful. I think Qigong and Tai Chi are both brilliant. If yoga is something that frustrates you and you don't want to be sitting down doing that, I definitely think Tai Chi or Qigong or Baguazhang is also useful for, especially for people who like to have a lot of movement. But gentle movement is really good. So you can do that with Tai Chi. But the great thing about Tai Chi, you can also speed it up and turn it into Baguazhang movement. And then other people also use weighted blankets for sensory grounding. You can buy these online. And regular sensory breaks can prevent overstimulation. What I always do before I go to bed is I use an eye mask to help me sleep. So I cover my eyes. I have some funny eye mask covers that really helps me sleep so much better, because one of the other issues is that with sleeping, our eyes and our brains tend to go into REM, shallow sleeping, in every 90 minutes. So it's more likely that your eyes might open and your sleep is going to be disrupted. So if you have an eye mask on, it doesn't only block out the light, but also helps you keep more uninterrupted sleep. Number 3, prioritizing rest and recovery. This is so hard to do for people with ADHD. We do not give ourselves permission to do this, and we don't even know when we need rest. It's so hard to know, except for when our eyes are stinging. So that's with the tiredness. You have to try and make sure that you're mindful of this and stay guilt-free, because let me put it this way. If you want to be productive, rest and recovery are a part of being a great productive person. So productivity, the process of productivity, is to prioritize rest and recovery guilt-free. That is part of productivity. You can't be productive and burn yourself out. You have to factor in rest and recovery in order to recharge. Being consistently productive means you have to be consistent with rest. Rest is a priority. So otherwise, fatigue and sleep issues worsen symptoms. Overall, these 4 factors making everything harder, and emotional dysregulation is harder, and so on. So remember, tell yourself, if I want to be productive, rest is part of being a more productive person, okay? So give yourself that self-care. And you can schedule white space in your day, quiet time without screens. I really enjoy being in nature, being immersed in nature. Some people call it forest bathing or ecotherapy. It's just being in nature. That is the most peaceful thing for me. I can switch off, connect, be in the moment, and be with my dogs and my animals and just enjoy that quiet time. So that's also a really good method. Or you can try meditation or guided meditation. Often I share a lot of guided meditation with my clients, and sometimes I give out short meditations. So these are the 3 tips that we can start off with to help people with PTSD, burnout, ADHD, and everything else. Have I missed anything else? Brain injury. Yes, all of these are super important, but you must factor in time to rest, and that really helps keep a consistent flow and avoid the extremes, dopamine or doom. Okay, so I really hope that these tips helped you today. And if they did, please give this a like and share my post and come back and follow me for more. Thank you.